Once again, 1-1 between these two sides, as it was in the reverse fixture. Real Madrid looking to keep the title chase alive and looking for a good performance ahead of that second leg against Bayern, but it wasn't to be. It was a draw on the day, and it does mean that they are now 6 points behind Barcelona, and it could be more if Barcelona beat Espanyol on Saturday in the Catalan derby. It's not an easy time as it stands right now for Real Madrid. Luis Garcia was watching it for us today. He thought it might be a draw, but let me start with you, Craig. More drop points, not good news for Real Madrid.
Look, it's hard to watch that and make an argument for how Real Madrid are going to win in Munich. But we keep hearing about this Champions League just raises the standard, which it seems to have done certainly in the last game. But that's the standard that we've seen most of the season. In fact, that's maybe a slightly better than we've seen most of the season. But that's a kind of mediocre standard that we've seen from Real Madrid that's left them in this position that only Barcelona losing really will give them half a chance, because there's a Clásico coming in May 10th. A Barcelona win tomorrow, 9 points, you can forget it. And that's because there's been too many of these games. Too many games where teams have defended deep and defended in an organised way, but Real Madrid haven't been able to break it down. And when you saw some of the stuff, and I don't blame Kylian Mbappe, who's having this bit of a dry spell, the chances that he's missing are actually, I think, a lot of difficult chances. From angles, from balls coming over his head. It's not like he's missing sitters. But I look at Vinicius Junior today, and there was a 1 point right at the end. And we've talked all broadcast about crosses into the box and better delivery and more delivery. He had an opportunity with a minute or two to go on the left-hand side to put an easy cross in, and he tried to beat another two guys and gave it away. So that overcomplication from Real Madrid today it happened quite a lot. So just not a good enough performance. But again, we've seen this type of thing at the Bernabeu a lot this season.
And I think what we've seen from them is, because they have so much talent, maybe somebody has a wonder strike from 25, or maybe there's just that moment where Mbappe is able to dribble a couple guys, or one of those 10 attempts that Vinny had of trying to dribble 6 guys. Maybe he pulls one off, and that's the odd goal that gives them the 3 points. But a well-organized Girona even gifted him a goal. Yeah. So, I mean, it's subpar.
If Gazzaniga doesn't throw that in the back of the net, we're looking at Real Madrid.
And I mean, Gazzaniga
lost the game.
Had a decent game. He makes the one mistake that gives the goal, but yeah, you lose 3 in a row, 2 of those being at home. No.
I don't know about Luis, but I just don't see, having watched how Bayern played in the first leg, and they can play even better
at home.
I just don't see how this Real Madrid side can compete. When I see games like this, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
We're going to get to Bayern, but to that point, if you can't see how they're going to do it against Bayern, how can we be convinced that they do actually have a chance at the title in La Liga this season after tonight, Luis?
No, I don't think that is tomorrow Barcelona wins and gets the 3 points. With that gap in 9 points, it would mean that they have to win not only El Clásico, but another 2, and Barcelona lose another 2. So there are many things, and we don't go to that side. We go to what we can see of Real Madrid. Right now, they are so focused on the Champions League games that they kind of forgot that they might have a chance. You don't never know what is going to happen until the end of the season. It's still a lot of games to be played. A lot of things can change. But today, I think what we saw on the pitch is intention from Real Madrid, because you could see that there was an intention of trying to do something, but really not determination at all. Vinicius Junior wasn't as intense as we saw it against Bayern Munich. Mbappe just moving around, but just hanging there, waiting for the ball to arrive and maybe his thing. In the middle of the park, we saw Jude Bellingham, because he hasn't been involved, the one who brought the heart and a little bit of the idea in the middle of the pitch, trying to arrive in the second line. But really, even Valverde, he scored a wonderful goal once again, as we've seen so many times. Today is like, okay, we are doing just enough to try to go away, to try to get something from today's game, because really the urgency was in the last maybe 20 minutes when Arbeloa started making changes. but really not the desire of we need these 3 points. Everyone is thinking about what is happening on the midweek game against Bayern Munich. I can understand it, but this is a big opportunity they miss of getting closer once again and put pressure on Barcelona, because Barcelona also has got a very important game in the middle of the week against Atletico Madrid, so there will be rotation at the weekend, or maybe can draw points in a derby against Espanyol. So Real Madrid right now, I think that today threw the La Liga's trophy away.
Louis, go on.
I was just going to say, I thought Stuart Robson and Rob Palmer were going to come to blows in the commentary over the very point Lewis is talking about. Rob Palmer was talking about Wednesday night, and Stuart Robson, and there's 2 points here. Wednesday night is a big game, it's a huge game, of course it is. But you got to take the old cliche, one game at a time, and you cannot basically say, right, we're unlikely to win the league, so I'll start to make some changes, looking ahead to the game in midweek, because this is the most important one. The more pressure you can put on Barcelona, the more chance that they are going to mess up. But when you give a team that sort of breathing space, the chances are they'll go out and beat Espanyol tomorrow, and it'll be 9 points. But if Real Madrid had been able to put more pressure on today, it sort of slightly changes the picture. And so I get it, Wednesday night is huge. I know that. I know, but when you're in a title race, you have to take care of business first and foremost, and then look forward. And I just feel that, I think Louis touched on it, they took their eyes off it, and he started to make changes. And they took Jude Bellingham off. Okay, he's not had much game time, and he's probably going to play Wednesday. But he was the guy, as Stuart Robson said, that was making those runs into the box, and he's well over 6 feet. And they haven't got many players of that physicality, so when crosses are coming in, and you want that player. But he took him off with Wednesday night or midweek in mind, and there was a job to be done here, which they didn't do, and they're basically almost handing this title over to Barcelona.
And I think that's one of the tricky parts. When you have your 2 natural strikers, both love to get wide and come back in. And you don't have that out-and-out, number 9 who's just kind of in the middle. And so you then are very reliant on late runs from midfielders to fill that space. And when Bellingham left, that space didn't get filled. And then you combine it with Vinny making 7 cutbacks so nobody knows when to run in front of a defender. And Mbappe maybe just hasn't quite got back to form after he was out with the knee. And so there is some voids there that Real Madrid will need to address next season if they want to challenge for the title.
Real Madrid are basically they're laying their season on the line, saying, look, we'll come good in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Now that's a big ask now. Bearing in mind it was a hugely exciting first game. It was a brilliant game at the Bernabeu between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. But I think anybody watching it, whilst Real Madrid had a lot of chances and were dangerous on the break, you'd be hard pressed to make an argument that Bayern Munich were not waste liquor. Passed it better, were more coherent as a team in the way they moved around and they rotated, and they have got a natural number 9.
Yes, they do. Who
has had some injury issues and he's missed some games and he's not fully fit, but still did the business at the Bernabeu. So it's a big risk when you're basically saying, right, this is it. This is what we're playing for this season now is the Champions League, and this is what we're going to lay this on the line, and almost to a certain extent. Give the La Liga title and say, well, it's not really as important, so we don't need to. We don't have to worry about putting.
It's easy to say that when you're 6 points down and now soon to be 9 points down. So, yeah.
Where are you on that late penalty appeal for Real Madrid with Mbappe going down, Luis?
I'm not sure if they are complaining about what is happening on the feet or that late elbow that appears in the face of Kylian Mbappe. I think it's the movement of the player, but it's still hitting the face. So, yeah, one of those that the referee called a penalty. I think the VAR wouldn't get involved. But because of the referee, I think that understood that it was not enough to call it. It was a good goal for me.
Real Madrid love smoke and mirrors, don't they? I'm not suggesting Arbeloa or anything like that, but, the media around Real Madrid, maybe even some of the players, certainly the fans, it's smoke and mirrors. We didn't win this game because Mbappe should have got a penalty. We didn't win this game because this, that and the next thing. Well, the truth lies in they didn't win the game, as they haven't done a lot of games this season, because their intensity and their tempo and their quality in the final third hasn't been good enough. It's not, and if they lose this La Liga title or they get knocked out of the Champions League, it's not going to be because of refereeing decisions, most probably. A very, very small chance it's that. It's because they haven't taken their responsibility on the field and haven't performed well enough on the field. And everybody can gripe about decisions going their way and not going their way, because it happens to everybody. But you've only got to look at and we touched on it before the show, you've only got to look at the Elise penalty in injury time that was not even looked at to see that, it's not just Real Madrid that don't get the decisions. It's across the board, because sometimes people make mistakes. So, yeah, that's a 50-50 call on Mbappe. But what wasn't a 50-50 call was that Real Madrid had an opportunity today to turn up at home against one of the struggling sides in La Liga and put a wee bit of pressure on Barcelona, and they failed.
Yeah.
And they can't keep clean sheets. That's also sometimes if you're not necessarily performing at your best, can you say, you know what, we can grind out a 1-0 win if we need to. Not have a great performance, but find a way to keep a clean sheet and win a match, and they can't do that.
So Bayern are big favourites to go through, Luis. They've obviously got the advantage in this tie with the second leg coming up next week. What kind of chance would you give Real Madrid to turn that around?
No, of course, Real Madrid, when they are in Champions League, they always have a chance. They always have an option. They got that mentality, and the jersey is very heavy when they arrive to different stadiums against different teams. But sometimes, and most of the times that we've seen these kind of special moments or special nights for Real Madrid is normally at home when they play at the Bernabeu. That atmosphere that it creates, the stadium, the fans, being there for all the teams is really something difficult. I think what they used to say, 90 minuti at the Bernabeus are very longo. That's a fantastic word that they normally say, because it's totally true. It's very difficult to play during 90 minutes. It becomes like a long day trying to play in there and get a good result. But you have to go to Bayern, and you have to try to come back. Have to score at least once or twice if you want to go through, against probably the best team or one of the best team in the best form at this stage. So Bayern Munich can rest at the weekend. Players can focus on what is happening in that special night. And right now, I would say that 80% is in favor of Bayern Munich playing at home, and 20% I'm going to give to Real Madrid at this stage because of his history. Playing in this competition is always special for these players. And what we saw today is nothing of what we are gonna, or I think we are gonna see of these Real Madrid players against Bayern Munich.
Kind of where most of the boys went after the first game, sort of somewhere between 10 and 20% chance. Not impossible, but maybe improbable. And I think the key for Bayern Munich here is because they did create a lot of chances as well. And they were slightly wasteful in the final third, where Real Madrid's chances it was really good saves from Manuel Neuer, who performed brilliantly. But I think from Bayern Munich, for me, the key is when they have possession. Particularly the two centre-halves, Upamecano and Jonathan Tah, is that you can't be admiring your team's play. Oh, isn't this lovely? And then all of a sudden it's coughed up and with Mbappe and Vinicius.
Mbappe drifts wide and then he's on the run.
And I think that, and it was the key for Man City, and they completely stuffed it up, right? Because they had a lot of possession, particularly in the Bernabeu, but whenever they lost it, they were all over the place. And I think for Bayern, it is, be very, very mindful that you're organising everybody in possession when all the attacking's going on, to make sure if Real Madrid win the ball back and it's launched forward, that you're in a very good defensive position, that you're going to get there before an Mbappe or a Vinicius. Because if you're not aware of where they are and you lose the ball, that's where Real Madrid will hurt you. So a lot of the key for me is how organised Bayern are defensively when all their attacking players are going forward.
With their backs against the wall, knowing that La Liga could be out of their reach, especially if Barcelona win it this weekend, does that add further motivation for Real Madrid to go ahead in this Champions League?
Or further pressure.
Yeah, further pressure
both
too.
ways you could look at it,
But I think
right?
they've been looking at this and thinking that there's no expectation that Barcelona was going to even give them a chance to get back into La Liga race. So I think they put that even more emphasis on Champions League because of that. And I think because of that, then slipping up at home puts that even more pressure against a very, very informed Bayern Munich and a team that just seems to have that togetherness. When you see a side, you know, I'll go back to Leverkusen a couple years ago. It's a side that was together. That was, you just saw that unwillingness to lose matches, finding ways late when they're not playing well to get results. And you're seeing that in Bayern Munich. You're not seeing it in Real Madrid.
Yeah, they're saying it in Bayern Munich. They're saying they're more together than a long time.
Yep.